Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. Every day, I kissed my wife Mabel goodbye and watched her disappear down the bustling street, a soft smile lingering on my lips. We lived in a harmony crafted from years of laughter, shared secrets, and mutual respect, or so I thought. Mabel, with her luminous smile and unwavering kindness, was not just my wife but my best friend. Trust was the bedrock of our marriage, a trust one thought unbreakable until I saw with my own eyes how easily it could be shattered. It was a Tuesday, overcast and dreary, reflective of my mood as I trudged towards the high rise that housed the marketing firm where Mabel worked. I'd forgotten my lunch at home, and Mabel, ever thoughtful, had packed an extra sandwich for me. Reaching her office unannounced seemed like a trivial surprise, a small deviation in our routine. I imagined her delight, that sparkle in her green eyes when she'd see me. Little did I know, I was the one in for a shocking surprise. The elevator dinged on her floor, a sleek expanse of polished glass and buzzing computers. As I made my way to her office, the murmur of voices and tapping keyboards filled the air. But Mabel wasn't at her desk. Her purse, a cluttered splash of vibrant fabrics and dangling charms, sat untouched. Concern tickled the back of my mind. She never left her purse behind. Looking for Mabel. A coworker, whose name escaped me, nodded towards the end of the hall. She's probably with the boss in his office. My heart clenched. Her boss, Mr. Henderson, had always set off alarms in my head. With his slicked back hair and too tight suits, he oozed a charm that felt more predatory than pleasant. He was overly attentive to Mabel, always finding excuses to call her into his office or to accompany him to corporate events. I had voiced my discomfort once, but Mabel laughed it off, assuring me it was all professional. I approached his office, the muffled sounds of a conversation seeping through the door. The innocent intent of my visit crumbled as a guttural instinct pushed me to press my ear against the cool wood. Silence, then a soft giggle, Mabel's giggle, sliced through me. The door wasn't locked. It swung open to a scene so surreal it felt like a grotesque painting. There was Mabel, perched on the edge of the glossy mahogany desk, her skirt hiked up. And there, on his knees, was her boss, his head buried in her lap. The world stopped. Mabel's eyes, wide with shock and something akin to fear, met mine. Mr. Henderson scrambled up, his face flushed, his composure shattered. Mark. This isn't what it looks like. I finished for her, my voice a venomous whisper. I didn't wait for her explanation. The image was seared into my mind, a vicious brand marking the betrayal. I stormed out, the sound of Mabel calling my name trailing behind me like the echo of a bad dream. The ride home was a blur of red, stoplights, brake lights, the heat of my own rage. By the time I slammed the door of our once happy home, the plan was forming. If Mabel had chosen to shatter our life together, I would ensure it was her who felt the true depth of this betrayal. I always trusted my wife, but that day, trust was a foreign, bitter word. Now, there would be consequences, and I would be the architect of her downfall. The stage was set, the players were ready, and the game of revenge had just begun. The silence of our apartment was suffocating, each tick of the kitchen clock a hammer to my already shattered heart. As darkness bled into the sky, my resolve hardened. Mabel's betrayal was not just a wound to my pride, it was an annihilation of every promise she'd whispered in the dead of night. My love had been unconditional, my trust absolute. In return, she had given me deception. I paced the living room, mind racing, when my phone buzzed. It was Mabel, her name flashing on the screen like a beacon of a life I once knew. I answered, steeling my voice against the quiver of anger. Mark, please, we need to talk. I can explain. Explain? My voice was a sneer, the word a slap. What is there to explain, Mabel? I saw everything. What more do you want? There was a pause, a hitch of breath. I made a mistake, Mark. It's not what you think. A mistake. I cut her off, the words acidic. Mistakes are forgetting to take out the trash, not cheating on your husband. Please, just let me come home. We can sort this out. We can go to therapy, do anything. No, Mabel. My decision sliced through her pleas. There's nothing left to sort out. I hung up, blocking her number with a finality that felt both liberating and devastating. My next steps were clear, driven by a cold, calculating necessity. If Mabel had chosen to play a game, I would make sure it was one she could not win. The next morning, I started by securing the best divorce lawyer in the city. With meticulous detail, I explained the situation, leaving out the emotion, presenting my case as one might lay out a business proposal. The lawyer, a sharply dressed woman with eyes like steel traps, nodded along. "We'll make sure you get the best possible outcome," she assured me, her voice brisk. "Adultery is a serious breach. It'll play heavily in your favor, especially in the division of assets." Gratified by her confidence, I proceeded to the next phase of my plan. Mabel loved her job, her reputation. If she could jeopardize our marriage for her boss, I would ensure that her professional life felt the repercussions of her personal choices. I crafted an anonymous tip to her company's HR department. The email was concise, a detailed account of an inappropriate relationship between a superior and a subordinate, backed by the promise of evidence if required. It was a nuclear option, one that would cast a shadow over her career, but my heart had hardened against any remorse. By the end of the day, I had set in motion the wheels of her professional undoing. Sitting alone in our now too quiet apartment, I poured myself a drink, the amber liquid a small comfort against the storm I had unleashed. As the night grew deeper, my phone rang. An unknown number. Curiosity piqued, I answered. "Is this Mark?" The voice was unfamiliar, hesitant. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Clara. I'm a friend of Mabel's from work." "And?" I prompted, not in the mood for idle chat. "I think we need to talk," Clara said, a tremor in her voice. "It's about Mabel, and her boss. There's more going on than you know." The plot, it seemed, was thickening further than even I had anticipated. The air was crisp, the night oddly quiet as I met Clara outside a dimly lit cafe that seemed to hide from the prying eyes of the bustling city. She was a small woman, her features taut with nervous energy as she scanned the street before turning her attention to me. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, her voice low, as if afraid of being overheard. "I wasn't sure you'd come." I studied her for a moment, my distrust a tangible thing. "You said it was about Mabel and her boss. What's going on?" Clara hesitated, then nodded, ushering me into the cafe. We found a secluded corner, the murmur of other patrons a dull backdrop to our clandestine meeting. She took a deep breath, her hands wrapped tightly around a steaming mug of coffee. "It's not just an affair, Mark," she began, her eyes flicking to mine. It's manipulation. Coercion, maybe. Mr. Henderson, he's not just a cheater, he's a predator." My interest piqued, despite the bitterness that soured the mention of my wife's infidelity. "Go on." "Mabel isn't his first," Clara continued, her voice a whisper. "There have been others, other women who've left the company suddenly, under strange circumstances. Rumors of harassment, of advances. I think Mabel was trapped." The information churned in my stomach, a mix of anger and an unexpected surge of protective instinct. "Why are you telling me this?" Clara's gaze was steady, sincere. "Because I think she's in danger, not just her job but her well-being. Mabel's not like the others. She tried to end it, to get away, but Henderson, he has a hold on her career and her life." The plot twisted, a labyrinth that I had not anticipated. My plan for retribution felt suddenly petty, misguided by the initial shock and my wounded pride. If Clara was right, Mabel was not a willing participant in a tawdry office affair but a victim of a far more sinister game. "What do you suggest we do?" I asked, the weight of the situation settling over me like a shroud. "We need evidence," Clara said firmly. "Evidence of what he's done, to Mabel and to the others. With it, we can take it to the police, get HR to act decisively." I nodded, my mind racing. "And how do you propose we get this evidence?" Clara pulled out her phone, tapping it thoughtfully. "Security footage, emails, testimonies from other women. He's careful, but not careful enough. If we look closely, we'll find the cracks in his facade." "So, we work together on this?" I asked, the alliance an odd comfort. "Yes," she confirmed. "For Mabel, and for all the others." We parted with a plan, a sense of purpose rejuvenating my steps. As I walked back through the night, my thoughts were a whirlwind. Mabel, once my heart's delight, now perhaps a pawn in a dangerous game. The stakes were higher, the path fraught with peril, but I was committed. If there was a chance to not only expose Henderson but also to salvage what was left of my marriage, I had to take it. The game of revenge had shifted, morphed into a quest for justice. The fight had just begun. The storm had been brewing for weeks, and as the final pieces of our plan slotted into place, I felt the tension crackle in the air, thick with the promise of retribution. Clara and I had become unlikely allies, combing through digital trails and coaxing reluctant testimonies from shadows. Tonight, it would all come to a head at the company's annual gala, a lavish affair where the elite would mask their sins with tuxedos and gowns. As I adjusted my tie in the mirror, the reflection staring back at me was one of a man changed, hardened by betrayal and steeled for the coming storm. My phone buzzed. It was Clara, confirming that everything was set. I arrived at the gala to a spectacle of lights and music, the air perfumed with wealth and deceit. Clara met me at the entrance, her face grim. "Are you ready?" she whispered. I nodded. "Let's end this." We split up, blending into the crowd. My heart hammered as I navigated through the sea of revelry, my sights set on two targets, Mabel and Henderson. I found them, as expected, laughing together by the bar, the picture of camaraderie. The sight twisted a knife in my chest, but I quashed the pain, focusing on the task at hand. I approached, my smile a mask. "Enjoying the evening?" I asked, my tone light but eyes cold. Mabel's smile faltered as she saw me, a flicker of guilt passing through her gaze. Henderson, ever the charmer, clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Mark! What a surprise! Join us for a drink?" "No, thank you," I said, my voice even. "I'm actually here for something far more interesting." Their curiosity piqued, they followed as I led them to a private room. Inside, a projector was set up, a screen displaying the paused image of an office, Henderson's office. "What is this?" Henderson's voice was sharp, a crack in his polished veneer. "The end," I replied simply and clicked the remote. The room filled with the grainy but unmistakable images of Henderson with various women, Mabel included, in compromising positions. The video was damning, a silent testimony to his predation. Mabel gasped, her face pale, eyes wide with shock and realization. "Mark, Save it," I cut her off, my voice devoid of warmth. "You made your choice." Henderson was livid, his face reddening. "You can't prove anything. This is a setup." "Think so?" I countered, watching as the doors burst open, police entering with purpose. Clara had tipped them off, the evidence enough for a warrant. As the police handcuffed Henderson, his fury was a palpable thing. "You'll pay for this," he hissed at me. Mabel was crying now, a mess of tears and smeared makeup. "Mark, please, I didn't know." I tried to get away. I don't care, I said, the finality in my voice echoing in the room. It's over, Mabel. Forever. I turned and left them there, Mabel's pleas and Henderson's curses fading behind me. The cold night air felt like a balm as I stepped outside, the chains of the past finally broken. In the weeks that followed, Henderson's career and reputation were irrevocably destroyed, the company purged of his influence. Mabel reached out, letters and messages I never answered. My heart had once held love for her, but now there was nothing left but the ashes of what could have been. I moved away, starting anew, the shadows of betrayal finally cast off in the light of justice. I had sought revenge, and in its wake, I found not satisfaction but a somber peace. The game was over, the traitors punished, and I was free.